Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Thank you all for being here. So in this episode, I am basically going to be giving you guys an astrology 101 lesson. I've been kind of working on this for about a month now. This is kind of another thing that I've been at least wanting to expand my work and, try something else besides, just doing the horoscopes, which I am enjoying. I know most of you guys are probably enjoying that too, but I just kind of had this an idea, and even if it's you're not really familiar with, certain keywords of what we're going to be talking about, but we're just going to be basically talking about the basic stuff, the zodiac sign, we're going to be going over all 12 signs, giving little keywords, little notes about the, describing the energies of each sign. And then we're going to be going over every planet energies. So we're going to be going over, talking about, what each planet means and their energy and stuff like that. We'll be going over that. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to be talking about the houses of astrology. So, so if you're interested in sticking around, thank you for being here. I've been kind of wanting to do something else. I know I mentioned that in the May horoscope. So this at least should be out. Go check out your May horoscopes. That was a really awesome month to talk about. I'm really excited about just where we're heading into because we are getting a little bit more clear on the astrology. Most of 2025 has been really challenging for the most part. There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of just heavy energy, a lot of retrograde delayed. There's just been so much change in the world, and that's basically what 2025 is all about. If you want to go check out the 2025 the forecast, I didn't do horoscopes for 2025 for all the signs, but I recorded my 2025 yearly forecast. I think at the end of last year. Talked about all the important transits. So go check that out if you want to basically see the whole year of 2025. So this is kind of just what I'm doing. This is just another example, another idea, I should say, that I've been kind of wanting to do. So this is just, for basic learners. If you have no knowledge of astrology, this will be basically the video to watch and learn about, and just to take whatever notes and stuff like that you get from this, from my take at least, So this is just what we're going to be talking about. If you want to follow me on social, I just kind of want to advertise that real quick. I mainly do my stuff on Instagram, just Codifer or Codifer Versin. It'll be in the box, the description box below if you want more information. But follow me on Instagram is where I do most of my work. I've been I brought back my merch. So if you want to kind of check that out, you just click on the links here and go to the last one. It says merch website, codeversuniverse.myspreadshop.com, and that'll take you to my merch website. So I rebranded. I made a new merch website. It's basically the same thing, but just a new name, Codeverse Universe. I'm actually wearing the new merch right here. I got the Taurus merch on right now. So just a bunch of stuff. It's the same thing, just a new website, whatever. 20% off going on right now at the moment. I will be having a lot more 20% offs in May at this point. So even if you're seeing this in May and you're like, oh, I want to know when other sales are going on, there's going to be plenty of sales. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be advertising that most of the time. This is just the Neptune and Aries merch. We got the Taurus merch, all that stuff. There's only a handful of merch so far. We got Aries, just a few things. Here's some Pisces merch and stuff like that. So just a few things so far. I will be adding some new Gemini merch and Saturn and Aries merch. I got those two in the works right now, so I'm very excited to release that next month. So you don't want to miss that out. But yeah, come check out the merch, Codeverse Universe, or follow me on Instagram for other promotions and stuff like that. Okay, so basically back to what we were doing. This is just going to be a basic, astrology video. We're going to be talking about, like I said, the zodiac sign keywords, planetary energies, and then the houses of astrology and stuff like that. So before we go and jump into this, if you are new here, I am Cody. I should have introduced myself, but yeah, here we are. I'm Cody. I'm an astrologer. I've been doing these videos for a couple years now, at least filming it, but I've been working on this for a very long time at this point. So I'm just trying to expand something new, just get a little bit extra for my content and stuff like that. I don't know, but yeah. So if you're new here, thank you for being here. Please like, share, subscribe. I'm very excited to just at least do another video, another episode, I should say. So yeah, and I will be posting this early for early subscribers on my Patreon. So if you want to get this a little earlier than where I, publish it on other platforms, which are Spotify and YouTube, go follow me on those two platforms as well. But yeah, come check out and just keep following me if you want to, keep up on the astrology videos. So that's a lot to talk about, a lot of intro, whatever. But all right, so let's jump into it. So the first thing we're going to be doing is this, we're going to be going over the zodiac sign keywords. So let's just kind of jump into this. We'll talk about the first 3 signs at first. So this is the zodiac sign keywords, section of this video, whatever. So the first one, is Aries, like always. Aries is, the start of the whole wheel, basically. It is the spark of new life. It is the astrological new year. That is the point where Aries begins. It's the spring equinox, you could say. This is where where it starts, basically. So some keywords for the sign of Aries. It's usually around the time March 20th through April 19th. Sometimes it's March 19th, depending on whatever year it is. But it's usually around, March 20th through April 19th. It is symbolized by the ram, as you can see. This another keyword is a very important one, is called I am. And it's really just focusing on the self, because that's what Aries is all about. It's all about the self. It's all about the individual. It's all about the spark of new life and something like that. So it is ruled by Mars. So it's a Mars ruled sign. So even if you have any placements in the sign of Aries, no matter if it's like the sun, moon, your rising sign, you are ruled by the planet Mars. And you have kind of like this, confrontational, energetic, very attackful kind of energy that you are impressing from, just how you are presenting yourself and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter if you have a Aries rising or if you have any other placements, like any other planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, the sun or moon or whatever. You're going to present this, very energetic, decisive, very attackful, just decisive, just going at it, in a way. A little bit of impulsiveness too. I think I might have put one of those. Here it is right here. But yeah, let's just kind of go on. I know I'm kind of off tracks at this point. So Aries is a cardinal sign. It's a fire sign as well. That's what gives that spark of new life, that energeticness. It's a very self-assertive initiator, very headstrong. It can be very ambitious, energetic, like I've mentioned, active, go-getter, impulsive, quick, fast-paced, spontaneous. It can be very enthusiastic. Impatient is a very key word. That's just all fire signs as well, but very argumentative, I can't even say it. Self-motivative, very adventurous, fearless, leadership potential. They are the pioneers of the zodiac. They will be the first to do anything and want to show up and show people what they are made of, basically. That is just Aries in general. They want to be the first to do it. They want to just be on top. They want to look good. These people, this energy is very eager. It has a very youthful quality to it, because it's like, if you're looking kind of like at the whole zodiac thing, the wheel or whatever, it kind of basically represents life. The Aries is the start of the new life. It is the birth. It's that very that beginning stages of the life and stuff like that. That's what brings the youthfulness of Aries or whatever. And it also rules the head. So if you have any Aries placements or whatever, you should at least probably watch out for head head stuff or whatever, like headaches, or just kind of protect your head in a way. You might get a lot of like flare-ups, and no matter what it is or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of just how it is. If you're like into like medical astrology and stuff like that, that'll kind of lean you towards what each sign represents of like the body parts and stuff like that. And we'll be kind of going over this. I have like all this stuff on here and these little keywords. So yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Like it's like it just goes deep and deep, into like so many categories or something like that, if you want to call it. But that's Aries for you, so so yeah, that's Aries. We can go to the next one, which is Taurus. So the sign of Taurus, it is usually around the time April 20th through May 20th or the May 21st, depending on what time of the year it is. Sometimes it varies. Taurus is the bull. It's that grounded. It's the first earth sign, basically, because we talked about Aries being a fire sign, so the next element would be earth. It's all about just they want to just like kind of enjoy things. It's that sign that wants stability. It's ruled by Venus, so it's a Venus ruled sign. So if you have Sun, Moon, any other planets, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, anything, even if you're Taurus rising, you are ruled by the planet Venus. So you have that like beautified kind of look to it, I guess if like what I mentioned for like Aries or something like that, maybe you have that that martial type of energy when it comes to like having a rising sign. But then it's when you're talking about Taurus, you have that Venusian kind of impression on that stuff, on anything. It's a fixed sign. It's an earth sign, like I mentioned. Taurus people or placements can be very patient. They have a very consistent way of doing things because they are the first fixed sign. They are the middle part of spring. So any fixed sign kind of just has this fixed quality, consistentness. It doesn't like change. It likes to just hold its solid form and just keep it going as much as possible. Like it's like staying in your lane and not changing your ways or whatever. These people can be pretty predictable for the most part. I feel like that could be representative. The sign of the word predictable can be presented for all earth signs, I should say. I know. This sign, like I said, is all about stability. It's a very steady kind of sign. You could say steadfastness. This is the way they kind of present themselves. They're not so Aries like, boom, I want to just jump and do that. No, it takes their time. They're like the tortoise, the tortoise and the hare. Like Aries and the Taurus, that's the tortoise in the hare. Aries is the hare, and Taurus is the the turtle. So it just like it takes its time. Like think about that or whatever. Let's see. It's all about values. That's like the Venus quality to it. It likes the luxuriousness. It can be very sincere, warm-hearted. It has that spring warmth to it. These signs can be very stubborn, on top of probably all the other fixed signs. Like all fixed signs can be stubborn, but I feel like Taurus just, ranks the highest of stubbornness. Maybe. It can also be very determined. They like to indulge in the finer things and stuff in life. Like they're all about the senses as well too. I mean, they are a very grounded, very methodical kind of energy. I put methodical right here too. This sign of Taurus can represent financial security or just finances in general, like money. That can go back to the whole Venus thing, because Venus somewhat has represents like money. It's all about the material values of what we find, like a financial attract. What do we want to put our values into, like our money and stuff like that? What do we want to buy or whatever? What do we want? Because that's that I have and stuff like that. That's like what the Taurus theme wants. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm just not making sense right now. I'm all over the place. I know. I'm just like, this is kind of a new thing. But Tauruses, they like comfort. They're all about comfort. So like maybe, maybe people that oppose, we'll just say oppose the sign of Taurus, will say they're kind of lazy. But, I've been thinking about this and I'm like, Tauruses are not lazy. They are like one of the most hardworking people out there. Like no matter what placement you have, they are like an earth sign. They will continue to work no matter how long it takes. They are all about the long term. Like right here, I have this. They are about the long term. They take their time. And it's just like, if you think a Taurus is lazy, like you're wrong. You don't know the sign of Taurus at all, if you want to say that. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. So they're all about agriculture as well, because think about the bull. I mean, even if you're thinking of like kind of like the wheel too, let's kind of go back to like, it's almost like the houses in a way. I mean, these signs kind of represent some of the houses, but anyways, so Taurus is kind of almost like the second house, and it's all about like ingesting things. It rules the neck area. Like I said, Aries is the head, Taurus is the neck. And they have that, agriculture, they love that. That kind of goes back to the indulgent. They like to indulge in sweet foods and good stuff and stuff like that. Like, that's just kind of Taurus in general. Fertilizing, that word fertilizing can represent like planting seeds. So like if you're, planting a garden or something, let's just say during Aries season, you plant your seeds. And then basically during Taurus season, you start to see, the roots go into the ground. It's really digging into the ground. It's really like growing at this point. That kind of just represents that, I mentioned they're very methodical, all about the long-term commitments. That just brings back to the earth sign in general. I'm gonna have to close this window. Hold on. That's so annoying. Steadfast, like I mentioned, these people can be very reliable on top, like just like every earth sign. And like I say, here it is, the neck. This is what the Taurus rules. It rules the necks and stuff like that. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's go to the third one. So Gemini. Gemini is usually around May 20th or May 21st, all the way to basically a month later. June 21st, June 20th. This is the end part of spring at this point. They are represented by the twins. And they also have this, I think, because this is an air sign, so it really focuses on the mental stage, the mental intellectual part of the chart. And that basically, brings us to Mercury, because Mercury rules the sign of Gemini. So if you have any placements in Gemini, even if you have an ascendant in Gemini, you are ruled by the planet Mercury. Like I said, they're air signs. They are a mutable sign. They are the first mutable sign. So they're all about change. They're all about adaptability. This isn't so fixed in our ways. This isn't so we are starting something. No, this is like just how do we finish this? How do we change this energy? How do we shift form, basically? That is all mutable signs, because this is the part where we are at the end of spring. They are very versatile, alert, very curious. They like to just learn stuff. They're very just stimulation is like a huge Gemini keyword. They're all about what's new, what's fresh, what's exciting in a way. Information is a very, very big keyword. Learning as well, as on top of that, communication. The Gemini energy can be very restless. They can also be very friendly. Very breezy, lightheartedness. That's just Gemini in general. Flighty, indecisive. So, I mean, some people might say, Gemini, like, well, here we go with the opposition qualities of what people basically put onto these signs is Gemini's two-faced. And that, there's a certain point to how the sign or the energy of Gemini presents itself. They're so, they have different ways of like thinking. They have different ways of like expressing themselves. even if they might seem like they're like kind of two-faced in general, but this is just how they are, you know. They can just like shift forms in a way, and I feel like that's kind of the energy of that. So it's like, if you think Geminis are two-faced, whatever, that's on you, but Geminis are they're just adaptable. They're shapeshifters, just like every other mutable sign. So they're all about intellectual, you know, and the intellect, the mind, and stuff like that. They're very questioneers. They like to, you know, learn stuff. They're all about questioning and stuff, and trying to get that detailed information and stuff like that. That's Mercury. That's Mercury's energy, at least. Inconsistent, yes, they can be inconsistent, as on top of indecisiveness. That's just air signs in general. So like when let's go back to talking about Taurus. Tauruses can be very consistent because they're a fixed sign. They're very, you know, stay in their lane kind of way. But then you go to Gemini and it's very inconsistent. It's not, you know, staying in the same lane. It's very changing form, changing lanes. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go over here, no, over here, I don't know which to go. Like that's the indecisiveness and consistentness. That's just how it is, you know. They can be all over the place. This sign can be very witty. Like I mentioned, stimulation is a huge key word. Detail oriented. They're all about the rational mind, like I mentioned. Multiple personalities. Let me just clear that out. Clear the air. What did I just say? Like, they're not two-faced. They have just multiple personalities that they express onto the, like impress, okay? So they are not bad people. Gemini rules the lungs and also the hands or the arms or whatever. Like if you know, do a lot of things with your arms or something, like if you have Gemini placements or whatever, you might, you know, do a lot of things with that stuff. But yeah, even if you are thinking about like medical astrology and stuff like that, you know, take care of your lungs. I know a lot of air signs like to, you know, ingest certain substances. So just kind of just take it easy. You know, I mean, that's not the end of the world. That is just what it is. I mean, I'm going to be mentioning like the different parts of each sign. So, yeah, but yeah, these are the first three signs. I hope that made sense. I know it's kind of like all over the place, but there's just a lot of, I'm very inconsistent. I have a Gemini moon. I mean, I have Sagittarius placements, a Gemini moon. I'm all over the place. I'm very inconsistent. I'm not like, so bear with me. All right, so the next three signs. So this is like the summer signs, the summer season signs. So Cancer. So Cancer usually starts around, you know, June 21st through July 22nd or 23rd, depending on what it is, because usually July 23rd is when Leo season starts. But so Cancer is the crab. They're all about I feel, because they are the first water sign, so they are more of an emotional type of quality to it. But that doesn't mean that they are just emotional. That's another thing that, you know, a lot of people like this to say, oh, Cancers, they're emotional. There's more to that. They're ruled by the moon, and that kind of brings the whole emotional quality to it, because what is the moon? The moon is all about how we are expressing our emotions and stuff like that. So if you have any Cancer placements, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, the ascendant, you are ruled by the moon. They are a water sign. They are the second cardinal sign. So they are all about like starting something, initiating something. This is the start of summer. This is when, you know, summer season starts. This is when we get into Cancer season. They're all about very protective. You know, this is a very protective, nurturing, kind of like a homebody, family-oriented kind of sign. They are very, like, they need that emotional security. If they don't have that emotional security, they don't feel protected. So, you know, if you are a Cancer and you need that, like, emotional safety, you need that home life, you know, it's, they are the crab. And, you know, what is a crab? You know, the crab is, you know, has a hard shell, you know, external, I guess, protection, you can say, whatever. But on the inside of the shell, it's a very soft, nurturing, very just sensitive kind of part of them. And that's kind of what Cancer represents. So even if maybe some people might act, a little tough on the external side, behind the scenes, they're maybe a little bit more sensitive. They don't show that part unless they trust you enough to actually show you that softness. But that's kind of like what Cancer is. Let's see where we at. Emotional security. They're very receptive, reflective. That's another thing. That's another like moon related quality, because the moon is a reflector. It reflects the sunlight wherever it's at in the sky and something. So it's like a mirror. So that's what that basically means. They're sensitive, like I mentioned. They have this motherly instinct. That's just the Cancer quality. The archetype of Cancer. They have that motherly figure. Very sympathetic. Mood swings. That's probably maybe an opposition quality that people put onto Cancer, but that just goes back to the moon, because the moon is in a sign for about 2.5 days. And let's just say it's in this sign. We're feeling a little bit pretty good at this point, and then it moves into another sign, and then we get like kind of heated, and then it just the next couple days we're fine again, and then it just keeps right, like that's just how the moon is. The moon is all about like how the vibe is. If it's in, like, let's just say it's in the sign of Cancer, it's in its home sign, it's a very nurturing, emotional, like kind of protective, secure kind of quality. And then it, like, let's just say it moves into Leo, and then it gets a very passionate, very fire, very heated. Then it goes into the sign of Virgo, and then it's focusing on like health matters and details and stuff and service it. And then it just kind of that's just how the qualities of the moon when it goes into the, so I mean, mood swings, yeah, they could probably, present mood swings here and now. They can be very tenacious, gentle, very nostalgic. They are probably the most nostalgic sign. Maybe all water signs are, but Cancer, I would say, lean towards that. They can be very imaginative, compassionate. That's just water sign qualities. Cancer rules the stomach and the breast. So if you're looking at medical astrology and stuff like that, you want to look at least those two, body parts, the stomach, breast, chest area, whatever. So yeah, that's Cancer. All right, and let's go to Leo. So Leo usually starts around July 23rd all the way to August 23rd or whatever. Leo's the lion, obviously. That's just what the archetype of Leo is. It's the lion. They have this very, very strong willpower. That's just Leo. They are a fire sign. They are a fixed fire sign. Excuse me. So they are the performer, basically. They are this very bright, it's the sun. Think of a bonfire, think of the sun. It is just this ball of fire, and everything goes around the sun, basically. That is why it's ruled by the sun. So sun ruled sign. If you have any planets in the sign of Leo, if you have your ascendant in the sign of Leo, you are ruled by the sun. Like I mentioned, they're a fire sign. They're a fixed fire sign. These Leos can be very enthusiastic, playful energy, very loyal. They are very just dedicated. They have so much integrity. They want to just show people, like, it's not like Aries, like, oh, let me show you what I can do in order to reach the top. It's like Leo just wants to attract that, it wants to be that bold, person or bold energy, that just like, it's so egotistic. It has a big ego, basically, at this point. That's just kind of Leo in general. I know we're just talking about this. Very faithful, self-centered. That's kind of what I was saying. Very warm-heartedness, integrity. I mentioned they can be very honest, affectionate, commanding, very demanding in a way. That's just Leo. That's the fixed energy. It's the fire sign. It's very like you need to do this. I'm commanding you to obey or be obeyed or something like that. I don't know. I'm not bagging on Leos. I love Leos. Very vital. That's just the sun energy. Bold, arrogant. That's just fire's energy. Egotistical, I mentioned. Conceited. That's just it. I think that's all fire signs, but Leo maybe gets that rap a little bit too much. Very creative expressions. They have just this childlike energy, no matter what it is. It's a very youthful energy in a way, but yeah, these people can be very talented. The performer, like I mentioned, the individual, because that's just the fire energy quality. These people are very confident. They just that's just how they impress others. They just have this bold, confident side to them. Inner child, like I mentioned, they're very childlike, very prideful. And if we're looking at the body parts or the medical side of this, it rules the heart. That is like the center of our whole body and what generates our whole being. And also the spine, because they just have this, like that, I would think about the strength card in the Tarot deck. Because that's what Leo represents, is the strength. And I feel like the heart and the spine are the two, like, I guess, parts of the whole being that really hold everything together in a way. So that's Leo. All right. Virgo. Okay, so Virgo is, it's usually starting around August 23rd, or at the end of August, towards the end of September, which is around, either September 22nd or September 23rd, depending on what time of the year it is. So Virgo, it's represented by the Virgin. That's just the pureness, the cleansiness. Just that's what Virgo is. It doesn't mean, oh, if you're a Virgo, you're a virgin. No, that's just, it has this cleanse in it. Like we'll go through the key words, but that's just kind of what it is. I analyze. They're all about just analyzing little details and stuff like that. You are ruled by Mercury. You have any placements in Virgo, ascendants in Virgo, you are ruled by the planet Mercury. You are an earth sign. This is the second mutable sign. So this is a very changeable, adaptable form, like energy or whatever. Very shiftful in a way. This is the end of summer. This is all about, Virgo is all about health, health in general, basically, like just basic health information, health services or whatever, service oriented as well. Very humility, very humble type of energy in a way. These people, this is an earth sign, so it brings it back to the practicalness, the groundedness, methodicalness in a way. They are about perfectionists. Even though, we live in a world where everybody wants things to be perfect in a way, Virgo kind of, creates or offers that, let me just kind of tinker with this, let me do this, just to kind of see if I can get it a little perfect in a way. That's just kind of how Virgo is. Even though we live in a world that is not perfect in a way. But these people, I feel like they are very helpful in a way when it comes to just getting anything done. That kind of brings it back to the service quality to it. These people are very precise. Purity is kind of what I was saying about the whole the virgin type of quality or whatever. They just want to be, they're very cleansing. They want things to be pure, just fresh, neat in a way. They have that Mercury ruled quality to them, so that brings intellectual side to them. Very efficient, restless. It's another Mercury ruled quality. They're all about a systematic way of doing things. They can be very organized, and how they plan their days, or just how they plan anything in general. That kind of just brings it back to the whole service thing, making sure things are in the right order. They are earth sign, so they take their time. They are very focusing on the material world. Even though they're a mutable sign, that doesn't mean they're all like kind of like inconsistent. No, they still have that earth quality that kind of brings them one step at a time in order to reach certain things. They have that long-term quality to them, just like every earth sign. This is just a more adaptable kind of earth sign quality, if you want to, say that. Very like organizations or whatever, detail oriented, very detail oriented. I feel like almost more than Gemini. Virgos are very, detail oriented, making sure everything is in order. I feel like that kind of, represents the earth quality to it, like I mentioned. Routines, that's just a normal thing. You need that routine, practical, or what is the word? What did I just mention for Taurus? Reliable, I believe. That's what I'm just trying to think of. Very reliable, routine. They're very observant of everything. So they can be very cynical at times. They have that neatness to them, critical as well. You might hear a lot of Virgos kind of like, mentioning, this is how things are supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. Just like, it might seem like, oh, you're just being critical, blah, blah, blah. But it's like they're trying to bring that, I guess, perception of how things need to be in a way that bring the helpfulness. Like, if we don't do things this way, why don't we try, things this way? It's, I don't know, something like that. That kind of brings it to the problem solving. Like, we're basically just talking about it. These people could be kind of reserved at times, I would say. I don't know. I feel like they're very observant over everything. They're not so in the spotlight like Leo. They're kind of in the backdrop, kind of like, trying to see, every little dot, every detail, and, and I don't know. It just has that reservant type of, maybe just a small, taste of it, but, and if you want to know the body parts or whatever, or the medical side of a Virgo is all about the gut. So if you have any Virgo placements, or even if you're a Virgo sun or whatever, I feel like that's mainly what it focuses on. But you might have some gut issues, so kind of be careful what you're consuming, because I mean the gut is a more like workable organ than mostly any other thing that in the body or something like that. So that's just another thing or whatever. So that's the summer season signs. Let's go to the fall. So we got Libra. Libra's next. So Libra is all about, Libra is when autumn starts. September 23rd, maybe 22nd. I would say the 23rd. I don't think it starts earlier than this. All the way to October 23rd. Libra is represented by the scales, and that just brings the eye balance quality to it. They are the other Venus ruled sign. So if you have any placements, planets, ascendant, sun, moon, whatever, you are ruled by Venus. They are an not an earth sign. They're an air sign. Whoops. Libra's an air sign. They are another cardinal sign. So they are all about initiating something, starting something new. This is the autumn, when the autumn starts. So they are basically starting that season up. This is when we have equal days, equal nights. Everything is just balanced. They're all about relationship. This is the relationship, one of the relationship signs. Scorpio is the other one, and we'll get to that in a sec, though. Just wanted to mention that. All about partnerships, pleasing. They can be very diplomatic, equity, very peaceful. At least they try to be very, peaceful for the most part, or diplomatic as much as possible. It's the opposite of Aries. So if Aries is very decisive, very just go-getter, like the individual, it's just like Libra would be the opposite, which would be, the other person. It's the mirrored person. It's not just focused on one person, it's focused on both people. And where was I going to that? I was like something like that. But yeah. It's kind of just like the opposite of that. They can be very indecisive. They're looking at things at both sides. That's where the scales kind of come in into. They have this beauty quality to them. If you have especially ascendant in Libra, you have this beautiful kind of type of look or whatever. Same with Tauruses in general. If That's just the Venus, you know, quality to your personality, your luck, your character. They have a very charming type of energy, very considerate. They're not so focused on themselves. They are considerate of other people. They are focused on other people. It is literally, like I mentioned, it's just like, it's kind of just mirroring other people. Like, you're like, especially if you have a sun in Libra, like the sun is in its fall in the sign of Libra, but it really focuses on like, how can we, you know, see myself through another person in a way. That's just kind of Libra. I feel like that's just air signs in general, but mainly Libra kind of has that quality to it. Very sociable people, yeah. Libra is the cardinal air sign, so they like to be the first one to initiate conversations. If you kind of know, like anybody, Libras are the ones that speak up. You know, they're the cardinal ones. They're like, it's Aries. Aries is the fire cardinal sign, which is the first person to do something. That's a very fire energy, just doing something. Libra, which is all about the intellectual side, the communication side, they're the first ones to speak up in a way. That's kind of like a little thing right there. So indecisive, my goodness. Libra would top the rank of indecisiveness on top of the other air signs, I would say, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not trying to bag on this. These people can be reflective, and that's just kind of what I was like explaining of like seeing oneself through another. You know, that's the reflectiveness. Like, they're all about aesthetics. That's just the Venus beautified kind of, you know, the artistic, you know, that they love that stuff. Very attractive, you know, that's the Venus ruled stuff. They want to just bring harmony. They want to have companionship, no matter what it is. I mean, I feel like Libra tends to have like it really tests our being of like having a companionship, even if it's in the most challenging type of energy. Like, Libra has to learn how to, I guess, work with other people or have that companionship, partnership type of whatever quality to him. So that's kind of like I guess the challenging side of it, of how Libra presents itself. They're all about justice, courtesy, artistic, like I said. And if we're looking at the body parts or the medical side, it represents the kidneys, the lower back, basically, because that is the kidneys, you know, that's where everything kind of just like finds the balance. You know, I don't know, it just has that quality to it. Just so everything's kind of working in general. If things are out of whack, like if you are consuming stuff and your like lower back's kind of hurting around your kidneys, that means your system's off balance, basically. So, all right, and then we go to Scorpio. So Scorpio usually starts around the 23rd of October, all the way towards November 21st-ish, around that time. They are the Scorpion. How more specific can you be? They're all about I want. They are ruled by the planet Mars. So if you have any Scorpio placements, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, whatever, even your ascendant, you are ruled by the planet Mars. This is the other Mars ruled sign. They are the water sign that is ruled by Mars. They are very feminine, I should say. So Aries is the masculine sign of Mars. Scorpio is the feminine side. I guess I should have been saying that to every sign, but water sign, they are a fixed sign too, so that brings us back to the staying in our lane, kind of not changing form. It's just solid as possible. The Scorpio is one of the most passionate signs, I would say. That just brings the whole Mars like energized, like desire, and that deep desire for something. That's where the passion comes from, you know. Has that depth to Scorpio. This quality can be very obsessive, which can go in two different ways. So you just kind of, that's just Scorpio in general. I mean, they're all about secrets, which can be a good or negative thing. It has that depth, that deepness, or whatever, intense emotions. So certain people can't handle this Scorpio type of energy because of how intense it feels, you know? So, I mean, you could say modern astrology, it's ruled by Pluto, whatever, you do you, whatever, but this is the traditional side of astrology for the 101, basically. So we're talking about Mars ruling the sign of Scorpio, not Pluto. But you can relate in a way. That's where the intensiveness comes from. They're very magnetic, very attractive in a way too. You know, they kind of just have this, they pull into this energy because they have this like attractive magneticness to them. Very mysterious, sexual oriented. That's just, I mean, you can just say Mars, you know, that's where it mainly comes from. But yeah, Scorpio has that deep, you know, because it rules, like, we'll get to that part in a way. It has this all or nothing type of vibe, you know. It is literally like a ride or die kind of type of energy. So if you are not on their level, it's all about nothing to them. You need to put it all in, basically. Scorpio also has this kind of investigative type of energy, always looking underneath, you know, not beneath the surface, stuff that's not being seen. They're always like probing into the darkness just to see what's underneath, what's not really being seen half the time. That's just Scorpio in general. This sign can, or I should say, this energy can be a little suspicious. That kind of goes back to the whole mysterious thing, investigative type of quality, probing, like I just mentioned, strong desires, very, very strong desires. I mentioned that already. That's just that goes back to the Mars, like that deep, cutthroat. Because it's like, even if you are looking at the Scorpio symbol, it has that little like that arrow, basically, that's representing like the sting, like the Scorpio sting, the tail or whatever. But that can also, you know, you can look at what Mars, the glyph of Mars basically has. It has that arrow, that pointing arrow, whatever. So you can like look at it as that too. Where are we at? So deep relationships. This is the other relationship sign. But this is like that deepening, that deeper connection, that deep intimate, that's what it is. And that kind of goes to the next word, intertwine. So, you know, this Scorpio energy wants to have that deep intimacy with somebody, you know, that somebody that you can actually like literally intertwine yourself into something, like literally like be like kind of put two things in together and just make it one. That's kind of where it has, that's really interesting about Scorpios in a way. Maybe on the negative side, this quality can be very possessive, like just controlling in a way, which could go either way. So if you like that stuff, go ahead. But if you don't, you're going to be opposed by this possessiveness that they give off. And if you want to look at the medical side, the quality, it represents the reproductive system, the sexual organs. That's just what it is. So yeah, that's Scorpio. Okay, so we get to the sign of Sagittarius. So it's usually around the time November 21st all the way to December like 20th, 21st, maybe December 22nd sometimes, I think. They are the archer. You know, this is the centaur. This is the half man, half horse, you know, kind of like put into one. They're all about I aim. So this is like the arrow, you know, they're shooting the bow and arrow, you know, they're aiming for something higher than they can possibly imagine or see. It has like this is the Jupiter ruled sign. So if you have any Sagittarius placements, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Moon, or whatever, Mercury, or if your ascendant is in a Sagittarius, you are ruled by Jupiter. But yeah, like what I was saying, like it's the centaur. They have the bow and arrow. They're trying to aim higher than what they can actually vision. It's kind of almost like we're going back to Scorpio. You know, they kind of just have this probing underneath type of energy that, you know, nobody sees or whatever. But this is like behind the scenes. For Sagittarius, this is like beyond the scenes. Like they're just like they can see things or imagine things before it actually happens. And that's where the arrow, they shoot their arrow and it goes beyond, you know, wherever it goes. And even if, you know, it's somewhere, they're all about experience, I feel like. Back to what I was kind of saying. They are a fire sign. This is the mutable sign. So we're back at the mutable, adaptable, changing form, shifting, you know, all that stuff. They're the last fire sign. So bringing back to the Jupiter quality, they are the most optimistic signs probably out of all of them, all of the signs in general. Very outgoing, extroverted, risk taker. That kind of has like the whole, like, you know, shooting the arrow beyond whatever we can imagine and just going for it. And usually sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. You know, there's consequences to everything we put out into the world. Sagittarius is a very independent sign, very honest. Like, even if it's blunt, you know, they are to the point where, like, they have no filter. I feel like, especially if you have like Mercury in the sign of Sag, like, even though Mercury's in the sign of, it's detriment in Sagittarius, but they're big talkers. They are just blurted out, you know, usually. Philosophies, that's a huge thing. International stuff, like foreign stuff, they love that stuff. They love foreign cultures. Traveling in general, that's their big thing. Teaching, that's just another, like, it goes beyond that, you know, like foreign stuff, teaching, traveling, that's just Sagittarius. Nature, they're all about nature. That's the half man, half horse thing. So it's like the half horse, like the horse part of the centaur, is all about that, the groundedness, the nature, you know, the animalistic side to life, and then the man part, which is basically the human side of the visionary, the intellectual side of just, you know, of life or whatever. So you're putting like two things into one. But yeah, that's kind of just what I was mentioning. Spirituality, that's kind of like the whole visionary thing of like the, you know, at least the half man part of that. But that just kind of brings it towards the Jupiter ruled part of Sagittarius. Very spirituality. I mean, yeah, the Jupiter ruled signs, Sagittarius and Pisces, have that spiritual side to them. Seeks knowledge. They are all about seeking knowledge. They just want to learn. They're like a sponge. It's almost like Gemini in a way, but this is like the higher consciousness of like anything, and they just want to absorb. That's why they liked so many foreign cultures and stuff like that. They just find it so intriguing for most of that stuff. They are impatient. They are a fire sign, so you can't just be like, oh, it's all fun, roses and like rainbows and butterflies. It's like they have this impatientness to it. That's why they just want to just go. They have that fire sign. They are the wildfire in a way. You know, they're just all over the place. They want stuff done now. Like, that's just what it is. Very expansive. That just brings the whole Jupiter's another quality to that. Inspirational. They are a very inspirational people. Like, if they're the preachers basically. Like, if you have, you know, somebody like on stage and they're just preaching on something, like, that is the quality of Sagittarius. Very idealistic kind of quality to them. Centaurs, like I mentioned. Foreign topics, like I mentioned too. They're just all about that. And the body parts is also the liver and the thighs. So kind of we've been kind of going down the body, you know. Now we're at like the thighs or whatever, or the liver. So usually a lot of Sagittarius, I would say, kind of watch out, because the liver is like the body's filter. So if you are consuming certain substances, you might want to watch out for consuming too much, because you don't want to ruin that. And also the thighs, like a lot of Sagittarius people, I feel like have like a lot of sciatica problems going to the medical side. So just wanted to mention that. Okay, let's get to the last three, and we are... Okay, so Capricorn, here we are. We are at Capricorn. They usually start December 21st. This is the winter season signs, all the way to usually January 19th, maybe 20th, or the 18th or whatever. They are representative of the sea goat. They are basically almost like the Sagittarius quality. They have like two different things put into one. They are half goat, half fish, you could say, and we make it into a sea goat. There's some, I just want to like continue, like first, before we continue on, like I learned something about this during Capricorn season this past year. Like there was this old, I guess, symbolized Capricorn, I guess what Capricorn represents. And if you're looking at it, at the, like a image of Capricorn, like the sea goat, it has the goat, and then it's like, you know, it has a scale, and then the tail part kind of curls, and it goes like in a circle, you know, like it's like a tie in a way. And what I learned was, it was kind of like, the tying part, like the curling part of the tail was like a sign of like holding or tying something, like if it's a boat or something in the water, and you go up to the shore and you have to tie the string or whatever attached to like the pier or whatever the thing is called or whatever. And that's kind of like what Capricorn is. You know, even though Capricorn is an earth sign, it does have that deep watery kind of energy to it. And if you're tying like a knot or whatever onto like the shore, you just so just so it doesn't, I hope this makes sense. It's tied up to the shore or whatever, the pier, just so it doesn't, you know, kind of get lost. Because if it wasn't tied, it would just go deep into the unknown and just I don't know. That's just something I wanted to mention. It's weird. I hope that made sense. But anyways, Capricorn, I mean, usually it's all about like climbing up the mountain. They're a Saturn ruled sign. So they have this like Saturnian discipline, very coldness to them. Excuse me. They are an earth sign. This is also another cardinal sign. I forgot to put a comma right there, but they are earth. They are the final earth sign. They are the cardinal sign. That means they're initiating something, starting something new. This energy can be very conservative, very formal, responsible. That just brings it back to the Saturn quality to him. Very reliable, like every other earth sign. They're very disciplined. That just brings it to the Saturn quality. Very mature. Hard workers, one of the most hardworking people, I would say. Very dedicated to what they're doing. They're always climbing up the ladder of climbing up the mountain. It's like it's the goat climbing up the mountain. They can just scale. Like imagine, like look at that. You know, when you see goats climbing up the mountain, even when it's like how are they doing that? They are very strategic on how they get up to the mountain, climb up to anything, working hard. Very cautious. Long-term goals are all about that. They can be pessimistic. They can be very objective. They have a fearful type of quality to it. That just kind of brings it to the Saturn quality, because Saturn has this fear type of quality to it. Melancholy, that's a very deep, you know, that's like the emotional side to Capricorn. They can be very respectful, very cold, rigid, all about limitations. Like I mentioned kind of like in the beginning, if you're locking up or tying something up, that is the limit. They're not so free, or they shouldn't be free, at least, because if they are, they're just gonna get lost in the sauce or whatever. So I hope that was a good explanation, because I thought that was really interesting about Capricorns. All about career oriented. They're all about just climbing up the mountain or whatever, the ladder. And if you're looking at the body part or whatever, they are the skeleton. They're the whole, you know, thing that's just holding everything down, that it just goes down to the bones, or you could say the knees if you're looking at the body parts or whatever. Okay, so now we get to Aquarius. So Aquarius is usually around, you know, January 19th all the way to February 18th. They're considered the water bearer. And I want to get one thing clear. You know, Aquarius is not a water sign, even though it says Aquarius, aqua. They are an air sign. They are the water bearer. Now, we'll get to that in just a sec. So, they're all about I know. You know, the Aquarius has this, unique way of like visionarying. It's like a visionary type of energy. You know, they're all 10 steps ahead of everybody, you know, the way they're thinking in a way. And they're also ruled by Saturn as well, so they have that very disciplinedness to them. But going back to like the water bearer, what I've learned about this, I mean, it's, you know, Aquarius, yeah, they're not a water sign, they're an air sign. The water bearer, if you're looking at the image of Aquarius, it's you know, somebody has a bucket and they're pouring out water, and that water represents the knowledge or their emotions of like how they're like just how they're feeling in a way. Like they have this futuristic outsider type of quality. And even though maybe Aquarius might seem like a very detached type of energy or whatever, they kind of use that to their advantage at times. Yeah, so I mean, it like that's why when they're pouring out their I guess the knowledge onto people, or they're explaining their feelings or whatever, it's a different type of vibe. I don't know, I hope that makes sense. Aquarius is a very interesting sign though. Air sign, fixed sign, very fixed. This is the last fixed sign, so they have that stubbornness to them. They have that consistency. They want to hold their form as much as possible. They have that humanitarian quality, altruistic, detached, like I mentioned, impersonal. These people can be very friendly, but Aquariuses are kind of awkward at times in a way. They're the opposite sign of Leo. So Leo is like the performer. They are like the spotlight. Aquarius is representing the people, the crowd, everybody else. Aquarius also has this 10,000 viewpoints of everything. So if you're like, even if you're like looking at the sky, like kind of where the clouds are at, that's another Aquarius type of thing. Clouds kind of hold this, it's like a solid form of air. And that just kind of brings it back to the water bearer, because they also pour out water from the clouds. And that's just like, I don't know, that's just something, another quality to this sign of Aquarius, which I think is really interesting. We can go on and on about that. Where are we at? Rebellious, very rebellious, unconventional, eccentric, unpredictable, because it's very outsider type of vibe. Original, they have their own way of doing things. Inventiveness, you know, they kind of have that, like, it just goes on and on about the different side to most signs or whatever. Group oriented, that's just kind of the Aquarius vibe. Futuristic, ahead of its own time, like I'm literally repeating myself about. Intellectual side, they're an air sign, so they're all about the mental side. These people can be very cold. That just brings it to the Saturn quality to it. Very different, independent as well. Aloof. Aloof? Oh, okay, this is, I was like, what did I just put? These people can be very aloof. And if you're looking at the body parts or whatever, the shins and the circular system or whatever, that's just kind of like the Leo is representing the heart. And then the Aquarius is like the circular system of where the blood goes. It goes all over the body and stuff like that. So, all right, and then we get to the last one, which is Pisces. Pisces usually starts around, you know, February 18th all the way to March 20th, usually, maybe sometimes March 21st, depending on, or March 19th, depending on what year it is or whatever. They're the fishes, you know, this is the last sign of the whole zodiac. If you're, you know, from Aries to Pisces, this is like the ending and putting everything all together. This is where everything kind of comes together. Everything is one. That is just Pisces in general. I believe that's kind of like the Jupiter ruled quality to it, because they are ruled by Jupiter. They are a water sign. They are the last mutable sign. Very adaptable. You know, like I said, everything's just coming together. Very shape-shifted. Shape-shifters. Very reflective. I mean, that's just the water type of energy, just like probably the other water signs or whatever. Very spiritual, like I mentioned, for Sagittarius and Pisces, Jupiter ruled. You could say Neptune rules Pisces, whatever, you do you, but when it comes down to it, traditional, it's Jupiter. Blending, you know, that's kind of like the whole Pisces thing. No matter what it is, Pisces, you know, sun, ascendant, whatever, you want to just kind of blend into wherever. That's just how it is. Sensitive, dreamers, they are the big dreamers. They can also be about escapism, fantasies, just stuff that's just out there, you know, beyond normal, you know, beyond the 3D level. You know, they're all about that. You know, it's almost like the Sagittarius, beyond the visionary stuff. You know, they have that dreamer fantasy type of quality. Introverted, I guess you can say somewhat, depending on what situation they're in. Old souls, they kind of, this is like the last sign of the zodiac, you know, old souls, everything coming together. This, like, the cycle is ending at this point. If you're like if you're looking at Aries as being the start of new life, birth, Pisces is all about the ending of life. Retiring, basically recycling, empathetic, withdraws, deep understandings, very artistic, religious at times. Sagittarius can also be religious. That's just the Jupiter side of it. Boundlessness, they're just all over the place, lost in the sauce kind of energy. Binds everything together, like I mentioned. Completion, same thing. And if you're looking at the body parts, they are all about the feet. So that is kind of just where, you know, the head all the way down to the feet. That is just the signs and all the qualities. I hope most of that makes sense. So let's go to the planetary energies now. So we'll start with the sun as we begin the planetary energies section of this. So the sun, this is, you know, there's 365 days, sometimes 366 days in a year. The sun is represented by the ego. It is the vital energy. It is what we put out into the world. This is what we represent as a person, as an individual, like individuality. Striving for significance, you know, it has that personality quality, life force, generates life. That's just what the sun is. You know, if you're looking at the sun, it gives us light. It gives us light, and it gives us life. That is like our generated life force that we all need to like absorb. That's just kind of just the type of it. But that is just how the sun represents. Creation, warmth, primal instincts, projections, that is just what we're putting out into the world. Presenting, basically, yeah, or another word for that. External world, our conscious will, because that is all about the willpower and stuff like that. So, and also the future, because it's like every day is, you know, there's always a tomorrow, basically. That's just what the sun is, and there's always going to be a cycle repeating, and that's why it represents, you know, the future. And like I've mentioned, the sun is the rulership of Leo. So we go to the moon, and the moon usually takes about 27.3 days, maybe 28, around there. This is the unconscious side. This is the side that most people don't see. This is our hidden part. This is where we feel at home. This is our emotional side, basically. This is all about nourishment, our inner world, daily habits, because the moon has kind of like this habitual, is that the word? Very ritual stuff or whatever. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, it's all about the past, maternal instincts, emotional security, and it is the rulership of Cancer. So that's kind of that's the moon sign of our side of life or whatever, how we present. So, and then we go to Mercury. So Mercury takes about 88 days to, you know, go around the sun, to orbit. Mercury is all about our communication style, how we processing information. It is the rational side. It has the intellectual faculties, the intellectual side, or whatever, the rational mind, or whatever. Mercury is all about memory. So I think I was like reading this in a book. That's why I put this in here. It is like the filter of, like, if the moon is the way we, you know, process emotions, Mercury is the filter that, you know, is all about bringing in information and how we can express that in a way. That is kind of like the memory side of Mercury. Learning, like I said, filter exchanges. The exchanges is just like, you know, communicating with other people and whatever. Awareness, knowledge, basically. Organization, or organizing, whatever. Categorizing, trades. Trades is a big one because it kind of, I would say, because it kind of has like that money type of quality to Mercury. Like, I know people might see Venus as like representing money, but how you, I guess, express that, how you make a trade, how you make an offer is all about communicating. That is the Mercury ruled side of that. And that's, you could say both planets represent money because that's just how we get it, or how we have an offer or whatever. I hope that makes sense. And Mercury, like I mentioned, is the rulership of Gemini and Virgo. And then we get to Venus. So Venus is kind of like an odd planet or whatever. It takes about 225 days to go around the sun, but there's also like 1 day on Venus is like longer than a year. I know that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know. I should have put it down on here, but it's like maybe 230 something. I don't know, something like that. But like, and then Venus rotates the opposite side of every other planet. So let's just say, I don't know, planet goes like this or whatever. Venus goes the opposite, it goes the other way, or whatever it is, something like that. Venus is the lower benefic. So that just means, you know, she has this good side to it. You know, this is how we, you know, enjoy the little things in a way, but it has that enjoyableness to it. Venus is all about love, relating to other people. That's just the relationship side of it. Enjoyable, pleasures, receptiveness. That's just how we attract. You know, if Mars is all about the stuff that we go after, Venus is all about the stuff that comes to us, basically. How we attract that. Like I said, and then attention, our appearances, basically our like, just what we like, our aesthetic quality, style, beauty, desires to receive. That's what I was just saying about the attractive. You know, that's what the Venus's desires is all about. How do we receive this? How do we receive what we desire? Values is a big thing. Like I said, that can be represent like financial stuff or whatever, or just material stuff in general. Companionship, that's the relationship, partner, close friends, feminine energy, because it's represent like, you know, basically the feminine side of ourself, which doesn't mean, you know, gender in general. The financial security, that's just what I was just mentioning, the whole money situation, and it is the rulership of Taurus and Libra. And then we get to Mars. So Mars takes about 687 days to travel around the sun, which is equal to about 1.88 years. So just a little, it's almost doubled what Earth's orbit is. Just a little bit, not too long. It's almost 2 years. Mars is also the lower malefic, which if you know anything about the word malefic, it can be challenging, you know, but we'll get to that, I guess, more. But yeah, sometimes Mars can be very difficult to handle. It's also because it's like Saturn's the other malefic planet, which are the more just challenging energies, challenging planets in a way. Okay, so Mars is kind of like the sun's right-hand man. It is like the sun, it generates energy, right? Mars is like is the fuel of how you operate, how you go after something. Like what gets you out of bed, you know? It's that it is that type of energy, you know. This is why when I'm thinking of like the sun is just like, you know, that's just who we represent. And wherever our Mars is how we get stuff done. It is the fuel that basically generates from the sun. You know, that's kind of what it is. what I've learned, operates. And then, okay, so fuel that operates the ego, basically, like I mentioned. Energy, ambitious. It's all about severing, cutting things out, because it has that, sharpness to it. Usually, sometimes we have to cut things out in order, and that's what brings the malefic, challenging side. It has that confrontationalness. It's all about speed, short-term goals. It just wants to go as fast as possible. It is the masculine energy. Venus is the feminine. Mars is the masculine energy. Mars also has a desire type of it, but it's a desire to chase, desire to go after, It's not so Venus where it's receiving. You're like, I desire this, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to get this. Mars also, like I mentioned, has this sexual instinct to it. You can say Venus has that sexual side to it too. These are like the cosmic lovers, Venus and Mars. So that's why they have different types of desires, sexual appearances, and like what we attract and want. Very assertiveness, confrontations, like I mentioned, survival instincts. That's kind of like the Mars energy, like wherever we have Mars, that's how we operate, our survival instincts. Very decisive force, very just going at it. And it is also the rulership of Aries and Scorpio. So let's get to the other three. Well, I guess we'll go whatever. I'll scroll down. Okay, so next one would be Jupiter. So Jupiter takes about 12 years to travel around the sun. It is the higher benefic. So when I mentioned Venus is the lower benefic, Jupiter is the higher benefic. It is the other good planet, or whatever you could say, the more positive side. Jupiter and Venus are the more, positive energies, the more enjoyable, easier, I would say easier type of quality energies. Jupiter is all about growth, beliefs, philosophies, hopefulness, visionary. It is the guru, basically. It has that higher mental, faculty. If Mercury is like the basic rational, side, the intellectual side, the lower consciousness, I should say, Jupiter has that higher consciousness quality to it. That's kind of like the difference between those two, because usually Mercury ruled signs are opposite Jupiter ruled signs. And what I've learned this over watching somebody talk about this, and it's like, what is it? Like rational side of life is opposed to like abundance or something like that. I don't know. That's just something to think about. That's kind of like just the two different qualities between them. It seeks the truth, judicial, expanding horizons, basically, because it's all about just long distance traveling. Jupiter also, I should mention, I don't think I wrote this down, but Jupiter kind of has this like, seed being planted and just watching it grow over time. It can represent like semen, basically like life, because it has like, all of this, it can basically present like a burst of energy or whatever, a burst of life, even if it's many things and stuff like that. And then that's just Jupiter in general. So it's nothing gross. That's just what it is. Expanding horizons, foreign cultures, teacher, spirituality, immortality, long distance travel, and it's also the rulership of Sagittarius and Pisces, like I mentioned. So that's Jupiter for you. All right, let's go to Saturn. So Saturn takes about 29 and a half years to travel around the sun, to go through the whole zodiac sign, the wheel. It is the higher malefic, like I just mentioned. Mars is the lower malefic, and Saturn is the higher malefic, which can represent challenges in a way, especially for Saturn. Saturn can be a very challenging energy, which is kind of a hard pill to swallow, basically. Saturn's all about discipline, maturity, restrictions, responsibilities, long-term goals. It also represents authority figures, the taskmaster, but Saturn is also trying to help us, just be better at something, and that's where the taskmaster quality comes into it. Even if it's like, you're doing the hustle, you're doing the grind every single day, you're like nothing's happening, but it's like over time something is happening though, something is growing one day at a time. You know, Saturn and Jupiter are kind of like the planets of growth in a way. Maybe Jupiter isn't so, you know, disciplined or restrictive, because Jupiter is all about expanding, and then Saturn is all about contrasting. You know, coming like releasing or just coming back. You know, that's the difference between those two. You know, it's bringing it back down. You know, it's limiting ourselves. It's not so Jupiter is like expansive, because Jupiter can expand as much as possible, but you know, having Saturn representing this limitation, there's only so far we can at least expand to. And that's where Saturn comes into the picture. It is all about karma. What is it? Chronos. That's, I think, is that Greek or whatever? That's also another, you know, what Saturn represents, Chronos. Limitations, distance, because Saturn is a very distant planet. And that just kind of brings the coldness, the opposition type of energy, because that's what Saturn represents, is opposition. It's a very distant planet. It is the farthest planet that we can see in the night sky. It's a very dim, like beige type of color, star or whatever. Beyond that, it's just like what we can't see, and that's where the other three outer planets come in, and we'll get to that. Just wanted to mention that. Look at that. Oppositions I just mentioned: rigid, cold, objective, reality. So, like I just mentioned, Saturn is the furthest planet that we can see with our eyes or whatever, and that just basically represents how we perceive reality. And Saturn is the ruler of what is acceptable in reality and what isn't acceptable. So it's like Saturn's kind of it's like an interesting planet, but it's a challenging planet, but it's also kind of like good for the most part when it comes down to it, even though it's like one of the most challenging energies out there. It has a fear base to it, like I mentioned earlier. Saturn has that fear. It's like, because Saturn's all about doing things that we have been doing for many years. It's all about looking towards the past. What systems have we been operating that we're still doing probably to this day? That's Saturn's energy, basically. And the fear base to it is like, you know, you're not doing you know, something different. You're not breaking out of this. No, you're like, that is just how Saturn operates. And it's like, whatever, you know, that's kind of where the fear-based type energy comes into. I can go on and on. I don't want to keep repeating myself. Experiences. I mean, that's another huge Saturn, you know, Saturnian energy is all about experiences, consequences in general. It has this melancholy type of energy. And it is also the rulership of Capricorn and Aquarius. I don't know. Saturn's a very interesting planet. I don't want to go on and on, but there's like, it goes deep into the qualities of Saturn. And, you know, that's why most people, I would say most astrologers kind of, you know, put that out there as Saturn being the best teacher. Even though like Jupiter's kind of like represent a teacher, but it's like Saturn's like the real deal kind of teacher. Like you know, we can see that in general, especially when we're working in general. Like, okay, so we get to the last three, Uranus. Or Uranus, whatever way you want to say Uranus. So Uranus takes about 84 years to go around the whole zodiac, around the sun. If Saturn is all about the walls and like, you know, restrictions and doing things that we've been doing in the past, Uranus is all about breaking beyond the Saturnian walls, like I mentioned. So I've mentioned that in a few videos or whatever, but I think that's like one cool thing about Uranus. Even though Uranus can be very, like, just crazy, unpredictable and stuff like that. But yeah, breaking beyond the Saturnian walls. I mentioned that Saturn's the furthest planet that we can see with our naked eye. Beyond that comes Uranus, and that is like beyond the wall, beyond the 3D type of level that we're seeing, or whatever. It's a very inventive sign, inventive energy. Excuse me. Uranus likes to try new things. It's all about, you know, not doing the same systematic thing that we've been doing with the past. It wants to try something out. It wants to, let's try this. Let's try this. You know, let's see what works, what doesn't work. It wants to play a different game in a way. It's a very unpredictable type of energy. It has a shock and awe to it, but it also has a liberation vibe to it because it's liberating from the past. It is all about the future. It can be very electrifying, which can have focus on our nervous system. Uranus can also be a very rejective type of energy. It doesn't want to play by the rules. It wants to, do something different. Uranus also represents space travel. That is like the futuristic type of vibe. Originality, uniqueness, innovation, progressiveness, basically, revolution in general, unexpected surprises that can bring the chaoticness of Uranus, like, whoa, didn't see that, like a wrench being thrown in our plans, or just something just shaking our routines and being like, whoa, that's Uranus. That's how Uranus presents itself, and it's unpredictable. Nobody knows what Uranus is going to do until something happens, and you're like, wow, that's Uranus. So novelty, experimental, radical change, like I mentioned. It can also represent technology, and you could say it's the co-rulership of Aquarius for modern astrologer peoples or whatever. So, and then we get to Neptune. So Neptune takes about 165 years to go around the sun, to go around the whole zodiac wheel. This is like beyond the 3D level. I would say this is beyond the 4D level, actually. It is like the 5, 6, 7D, level that we can't even see. This is how far, these planets are and how they operate. They're generational signs, generational planets, I should say. You could say Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, maybe even Jupiter, if you want to count that as generational planets. Neptune's a very it's all about illusions, fantasies, very deceptive, spiritual duty. It has this, collective, idealistic vibe to it. That's where the generational side comes into. It's not so personal like the personal planets in our face. It's a very this is a very a group of people, the consciousness of this group and how we are expressing oneself or expressing our idealistic perceptions or whatever. Here, collective perception, basically, like I said. Idealistic perceptions, collective perceptions, distortion, fogginess has that fogginess type of energy. What is that word? Obfuscate or something? I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but that's another Neptune thing. Obfuscate? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I think that's I'll put that in there. I'll put that out there. Utopia type of vibe. Dreams, collective dreams, I should have said. Unconditional energy. This is like the unconditional love. It kind of has that higher octave of Venus in a way. That's where the unconditionalness comes in. It also can represent addictions, substances and stuff like that, escapism, extreme sensitivity, and it can also be the co-ruler of Pisces if you want to accept that. Very interesting qualities. There's many more, I'm sure, and this is just a few. And then we get to Pluto, the last planet. So it takes about 248 years to travel around the whole wheel. It is a very, 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 very long time. This is why we don't always, see Pluto going around the whole thing. We only have Pluto going into, a few signs in our lifetime, basically, if we're lucky, at least. But this is the Lord of the Underworld. It also represents death, rebirth situations. It's all about destruction. I don't know if I put this on there, but yeah, it's right here. Destruction, power, corruption, regeneration, sacrifices, transformations, large organizations. This is like the corporations and stuff like that, and governments. That's what Pluto can represent. Secrets, deep obsessions. That this is kind of almost like a higher octave of Mars in a way, because they're both can represent obsessions and some type of whatever. Pluto is also the shadow self or whatever, because it's beyond everything. You know, it is in the outer reaches of the solar system. It's in the, I think it's called the Kuiper Belt or whatever. So it's one of like the dwarf planets that basically are out there. But Pluto has a very, very strong influence. I don't know if I also put this on there, but Pluto also represents, you know, making small things a big deal, or big things a small deal. Like, it's just, it kind of, that's another quality that I usually hear about Pluto, which is, yeah, to the point, you know. Secrets, deep obsessions, shadow self, powerful forces, very powerful forces, yeah. Intensity, spiritual growth, to a point, you know, it has the psychologicalness to it, subconscious, but yeah, the psychological side of just energies, power struggles, and you can also say it's the co-ruler of Scorpio. So I just put that up there. So that's the planets, you know, that's kind of just what it is. That's the planets. Now let's get into the houses. You know, this is the last part of the video, you could say. So the houses in astrology. So the first house, you know, this is the house of the helm. This is the ascendant. This is first impressions. You know, this is our personality. This is what people see us as, depending on whatever sign you are. This is how, like, even if you don't have a sun sign in your first house, say you're like, I don't know, sun in, let's just say sun in Leo, but you have an Aries rising, like, you're going to be a very, like, fiery, bold, courageous type of person, but you're also a pioneer, how you impress other people. You have this courageousness, you have this adventurous, like, let me show you what I can do. And then on, like, if you know the person deeper, you'll see the sun sign beyond their ascendant. I just want to put that out there. Personality, appearances, character, physical body, approach to life. This is the beginning stages, you could say. This is our demeanor. This is the mask that we wear when we meet anybody for the first time. This is our just self-consciousness. Like, this is also, the first house is our soul's purpose. What are we here to do? What are we here to present? Projected image, or identity, we could say. There's identity right next to it. Projected image, our identity, our attitude, and just how we are presenting ourselves, yourself, whatever you want to say. So then we get to the second house. This is the gates of Hades. So the second house is what we need. You know, this is all about security. We need agriculture. We need to live. You know, we need food. We need personal finances to earn that security, or you know, yeah, our personal security and stuff like that. Possessions, priorities, what we need to just operate, you know, stuff like that. We need, you know, food. We need a house to live in. We need water. We need, like, clothes and, like, certain possessions to that, I guess, can help us or whatever. This is our personal support, values, savings, like this can represent our money, savings, investments as well. This is the second house represents our work ethic, ownership, senses, our sensual side, ingesting. It kind of represents the neck. Like I mentioned earlier, the certain signs represent like kind of different parts of the body. First house is our physical form. Second house represents like what we are actually, what we need, like the food we ingest to survive, basically. Sustainability, and then personal resources. So this is just stuff that we need to operate stuff, you know. We need money, we need food, we need a house to live at, and stuff like that. So we get to the third house, and this is the house of the goddess. The moon finds its joy in the third house, and that kind of represents the rituals, the day-to-day habits and stuff like that. That's kind of like the third house. The third house has so many like qualities to it. It's not just like just a few things, it's like many things. But the third house can also represent siblings, short-term travels or trips or whatever. Style of communication is the third house, because that's the third house is all about communication. It's also representing basic or, just, basic education, or like schooling, like our early schooling days or whatever, that kind of basic information. Neighbors or neighborhood, transportation, immediate environment. This can represent just like our immediate like area that we live at, or maybe I guess like the town or whatever you could say. Daily errands, like our commune, how do we take care of things. Third house also represents relatives, like cousins, uncles, aunts, just, people who are related to you, but not like, I guess like siblings or your parents or whatever. Like these are just, other people that are related to you. Third house can also represent social media or media in general, like content or whatever. Writing projects, the rational mind, or just interests. Mental connections and stuff like that. I just wanted to add that because you can go on and on about the third house and stuff like that, but that's the third house. Pretty basic stuff, but there's many more qualities you can say. We get to the fourth house. So this is the house of the subterranean. This is the more hidden house. This is like literally represents home. The fourth house is at the bottom of the chart. This is our private life. I mentioned home. This is our roots, where we come home to and just ground ourselves. The fourth house also can represent ancestry. It can also represent maternal instincts, our like intuition and like our motherly instincts, kind of like that. The fourth house is our foundation. It is the part where we take, self-care. Or even just taking care of like family in general, but this is just mainly how we take care of ourselves. Early life, like early stages of life, growing up, it can represent like parents, mothers, stuff like that. Fourth house is real estate. This is our comfort zone. This is our origins, family traditions, genetics, feminine energy in a way. This is how we nurture ourselves. This is where the nurturing side comes in, and our emotional baseline, which is basically the nurturing side. But yeah, that's the fourth house. Then we get to the fifth house. So the fifth house, okay, I was just thinking of like something else, but the fifth house is about good fortune. Venus finds her joy being in the fifth house. That's what I was just thinking of a second ago. I was just like, did I miss something? But Venus finds her joy in the fifth house. I just want to add that. Represents good fortune. This is about the fifth house is a very fun house. This is what I call it. This is the fun house. This is all about creation, self-expressions, entrepreneurship. Children represents the fifth house. Pleasures, our bucket list items, like what is our like huge inspirational passions, like what is on our bucket list, what do we want to do, hobbies, apprenticeships, entertainment, romantic interest, dating, you could say, conception. This is going back to the children. Our passions, inspirations, like I just mentioned, sports, our inner child. This is our performer, basically energy, and then talents and just any fun activities, basically. That's the fifth house. It's a very fun house, like I said. Okay, and then we get to the sixth house. So, even though it says bad fortune, doesn't mean it's a bad house, okay? This is just what the... if you know anything about Hellenistic astrology, or if you follow or have watched the astrology podcast, these are just little keywords that I've learned from watching that and that I am presenting to you. Doesn't mean the sixth house is a bad house. One thing is, if we're talking about the planets finding its joy in the house, Mars finds its joy being in the sixth house. But the sixth house is all about our physical health. It is the way we serve ourselves, how we serve other people. The sixth house also represents systems, systematic routines that we operate. That basically comes back to the whole servicing. Injuries as well, like physical injuries. Our work environment. It can also represent coworkers, routines, like I mentioned, subordinates. Oh my god, I can't even say this. Subordinates. That's like what we do, our job, our work environment. It also represents hygiene, fitness training, working out, and stuff like that. Those are just routines that can help our physical health. So, visible problems, just like, taking things, whatever's in the, I would say in our work environment, we can just like, take care or fix any visible problems or whatever. Like, what do we need to fix? How do we need to operate this? Pets are considered quality for the 6th house. Diets, supplements, like any supplements, like that just kind of goes back to the health in general. Remedies, same thing. Mundane realities, just basic things, basic routines that we operate, what we need to operate. So it's like the 2nd house is what we need to feel secure. The 6th house is what is like the work that we need to do in order to, receive stuff that we need. It's like the daily grind and stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting, it has the quality. And then it's like the 10th house is like our public image. That is like how people see us, view us as, our reputation. And we'll get to that. Just wanted a little quality of that. Okay, so let's get to like the second, the last part of it. So we get to the 7th house. Oh, let me just, hold on. Okay, there we go. Now you can see it on the screen. Just wanted to make sure. I hope where I'm like recording, like seeing this, I'll have to look back and be like, oh, anyways. Okay, so the 7th house. The 7th house is about, if you're looking at the chart, it is all about the setting part of it. It represents the setting. So it's like the sun is setting when it's in the 7th house. When it's in the, the 1st or the 12th house, it is where the sun is rising, and then it goes around and it goes to around the 7th house, and that is when the sun is going down into the underworld. And the 7th house represents relationships, partnerships, marriage, business contracts, opposite. It's the opposite sign, you know what I mean? Because it's like the 1st house is all about you. The 7th house is all about somebody else, and that's just the opposite forces or opposite qualities that the 7th house, gives off. That just goes back to the relationship quality to it. Business contracts, it's like your one-on-one connections that you need in order for, any contracts to, for you to do any contracts and you to be like partnered up with something like that, let's see, reflections. Basically, it's like somebody's just like reflecting stuff onto you, supporting or just support in general, commitments. That just goes back to the business contracts, or just in marriage in general. It's like you need that committable side when it comes to the 7th house of partnerships or agreements. The 7th house also represents open enemies, so that's like kind of one of the negative sides of the 7th house. But it also represents compromising. And if you know anything about compromising, that's the only way to build a solid relationship, for a relationship or a contract to be just equal, balanced out. Basically, it's representing Libra, basically. Socialization, just connections in general, projections from other people. That's kind of how, like if you put something out into the universe, onto somebody, they're going to reflect something back and they're going to project something onto you. And that's just kind of just reflections. It's a mirror. I know that's just a universal thing, And then we get to the 8th house. So this is like another kind of relationship house, you could say. It's almost like Libra and Scorpio. Those two represent kind of like those houses. It's all about death. It's the house of death. It's the house of shared resources. It's the house that represents inheritance. That kind of just goes with the whole death situation. Somebody passes away, you inherit certain things, or just, certain resources you inherit or whatever. It doesn't even have to be like death in general. 8th house also represents intimacy. You need that deep connection when it comes to a relationship, a partner, whatever. assets, debts, loans, psychology, soul contracts, taboo topics that, people don't like to, look at, like the occult side of stuff or whatever. Like, ooh, that's a little dark. That's 8th house stuff. Financial institutions, which could represent like refinancing stuff, putting money. That just kind of has like the debts, loans, all that kind of stuff. Joint ventures, that's just two people, partnerships or whatever. Occult, I just mentioned. Mysteries, taxes. The 8th house is just stuff that people don't like to look at. They don't like to deal with all that kind of stuff. Taxes, financial debts or loans and all that stuff. Like taboo topics. It could be a lot sometimes, but that's what the 8th house represents. Other people's money, secrets, refinancing, like I mentioned, that's just that's the 8th house, guys. So it could also represent sex. I'll just put that out there. I know I didn't put that on there, but that's just like another, taboo kind of topic, you could say. Not really, but that's another 8th house thing. So we get to the 9th house. This is the house of that represents God, basically. If you have the sun in the 9th house, that's where the sun finds its joy. It likes to be in the 9th house. It is at its brightest. It's at its warmth. That's just how it represents. The 9th house is also about philosophies, higher mind, long distance travel, foreign topics, foreign cultures, stuff like that. It kind of represents Sagittarius in a way. Religion, teaching, publishing, rules in general, like laws and all that stuff. Like we need law, like I put laws right here in order for stuff to operate or whatever. Legal matters, institutions, like higher institutions, like I would say like educational institutions. That's kind of like what I mean by institutions. You probably understand. You know what the word is. But yeah, like college level stuff, higher consciousness, just all that stuff. Higher education, morals, international stuff, like traveling or whatever, like different countries and whatever. Ethics, truths, and principles. That's the 9th house. And then we get to the 10th house. This is the house of the midheaven. This is the most public spot in our chart. This is, like I mentioned, the 10th house is how people see us in the world, like what we do, our reputation, our public life, our career, reputations. This is how we structure our life too. This represents responsibilities, achievements, what we are obligated to do in the world, long-term goals, professionals or professions in general, just, what we're obligated to and all that stuff. So, authority figures in general, social status, this is our power, what we hold, karmic lessons as well, and it also represents fame in a way. So even if you have like any planets, I think in the 10th house, especially like the sun, you are known for some big fame. You are very famous in some type of way. So then we get to the 11th house. So the 11th house is the house of good spirits. I believe Jupiter finds its joy in the 11th house. This is all about opportunities, abundance. That's like Jupiter ruled, keywords. 11th house represents communities, friendships, groups of people, colleagues, networking, like a group of people's like hopes and dreams. That's kind of 11th house and stuff like that. 11th house is our lifelong goals, our lifelong dreams, alliances. It's all about many people working with groups of people. This is the audience. This is our audience. If the 5th house is how we perform our talents, the 11th house is our audience and what, how they basically, understand our performance, I guess you could say, whatever. 11th house can also represent huge financial gains. That can just mean, collective gains, I would say bonuses, kind of like that. Because like the 11th and 10th house are very, just public houses or whatever. It's like, whatever you earn in the 10th house, you eventually will earn the financial gains in the 11th, something like that. Social resources for like, communities and, general like just resources. You know, certain places have their social resources for people, and that's why we basically have like profits, trends in a way. Humanitarianism, that's just the whole 11th house, you know, groups and stuff like that. And then we get to the 12th, so the last house, and we finally made it to this. So the 12th house is all about the subconscious side of life. I believe it's Saturn who finds its joy in the 12th house, because it has a very distant kind of like distant quality to the 12th house. It's all about, the 12th house is also about spirituality. It's all about the mental health. So if the 6th house is all about physical, like realistic, like what we can see health, the 12th house is our mental health, is our internal kind of side, you know. How do we heal our internal world? It is, the 12th house is all about the hidden realm, behind the scenes, our blind spots, addictions, isolation, seclusion. It does have a bad spirit to it. Not saying it's a negative. That's just, you can take that, whatever, take that the way you want to. Suffering in a way, because I mean, that's kind of like where, like, bad spirit, suffering, loss, it's all like the same thing basically. And that's just what the 12th house is. I mean, it's everything is just coming back, everything is coming into a whole. It's like the Pisces ruled house. Hidden enemies, that can go in many ways. Escapism, karma, basically karma in general. Like, that is just, you know, it's everything coming up to the last house. Everything is blending into one. Recycling in a way. Foreign lands. So I put this because it's like the 9th house could represent like like, I wouldn't say international like travel, but yeah, it does. Like, let's just say cross country traveling. And then it's just like the 12th house is like, you know, places in the world that just are very isolated and stuff like that. That's why you get foreign lands. That's kind of like the difference. Meditation has a big key word for the 12th house. Sickness, like mental sickness in general, like that's why some people, that kind of like represents like the next word, hospitals, jails, like just stuff that's just like mental, like places that's just, I don't know. That's where the sickness comes in, the illnesses and stuff like that. That's where you have certain people in like those, I don't know, institutions, you could say, whatever. But that's kind of it. I mean, that's like, that is the whole video. I hope most of that made sense. I know I kind of went off. I don't know. There was a lot of information basically, but yeah. If you want to just follow me, you know, please like, share, subscribe, follow, you know, subscribe for future episodes, or just get this on Patreon a little bit earlier than when I post it on to Spotify and YouTube, for more episodes and stuff like that. You can join my Patreon right here. I'll leave the link right here. Excuse me. But yeah, if you want to just follow me on just any social media, Codifer Versin. I'm mainly on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter or X at Cody22V, and stuff like that. So, and if you want to check out the merch, I already showed you that in the beginning of the video. So that's kind of it. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I wanted to do something kind of interesting, kind of give you my take on just basic astrology stuff, you know. Signs, planets, and just houses in general. So I don't know, tell me what you guys think. Comment and leave your comments in the comment section. Like, did you enjoy that? Tell me what you did like, tell me what you maybe didn't like. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, I don't think it's that bad, but I just wanted to do this. I wrote this about, like, I think it was about almost a month or two ago or whatever. So yeah, so that is my astrology 101 lesson for you guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to put this out. And I hope you guys, you know, I'll see you in my next video, which is possibly going to be June horoscopes. That's the next one, or if I decide to make any more. So yeah, come follow me on Patreon, get this subscribe a little early. YouTube, Spotify, Codifer Astrology, or just Codifer Versin on social media. So yeah. Yeah, I hope this was a good video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, I will see you in the next video.